My first guest says it doesn't matter who you tax or what form revenue takes. Taking more money out of the private sector will hurt economic growth. Joining us now, Republican Senator from the great state of Kentucky, Senator Rand Paul. Good to have you with us, Senator.
Good evening, Lou. You know, the president says we don't have enough time for tax reform or entitlement reform. You know what my response is? Duh. We've been talking about this for 2 years. Why haven't we done anything? I met with the president a year and a half ago, and I looked across the table at him and I said, we need to do something about Social Security. We need to do something to save Medicare, and they've done zero. How come there's no committee up here? I get to Washington, I say, who's in charge of Social Security reform? Nobody's in charge. Everybody waits for a deadline and then throws up their hands and says, we don't have enough time. It's broken up here, but because they're not doing their job.
Well, not doing their job, and whose job is it amongst the Republicans to start making some sense of the thing? I said, as you may have heard at the outset of this broadcast, clearly, unequivocally, without reserve, this will be the president's decision if the nation is to be taken over the so-called fiscal cliff on January 1st. There is no refutation of that. There is no rebuttal. That is his decision, his conditions, and the Republicans are behaving as if they're equal partners in the madness that would be the result of this decision. Why do they persist in your party to do so?
I think when we're in the middle of all these negotiations, people get consumed by the art of the deal, but nobody really is trying to remember what we stand for. And if we don't stand for something, if we're not the party of limited government, of lower taxes, then what are we doing up here? My point is, I'm not jumping up and down even to do revenue neutral tax reform. I want taxes to be lowered because that's the only way you stimulate the economy, is to leave more money in the economy. And I don't think it matters if they want to raise taxes by raising rates or by getting rid of deductions. They're both bad ideas. And we as Republicans have never thought it's a good idea. So let's don't talk about how much we'll raise taxes. Let's talk about how bad an idea it is. And when the president insists on raising taxes and the economy goes into the tank, he can get all of the credit he deserves for sending us in the wrong direction.
Well, the political consequence of this, the economic consequence of this, and by this I mean going over the fiscal cliff, will be significant. But what I don't understand is the apparent effort at either self-delusion or utter misrepresentation of the facts. You all, as Republicans, control the House of Representatives. But as we saw during the debt ceiling discussions of 2011, it is not a pretty perch from which to take on the bully pulpit of the presidency.
Yeah, but I think what we need to do is not get caught in the trap of the compromise is raising taxes. I think there are many other compromises you could have. For example, I think one compromise is we could save some money on military spending, even though I think that's the most important thing we do.
$55 billion?
National defense.
$55 billion a year?
Absolutely. I think we could. I think we could also say that, you know what, the rich could pay more for their Medicare, or the rich could receive less for their Social Security.
Means testing?
Those are compromises I presented directly to the president a year and a half ago, and he's done zero. His party's done zero. They're just hell-bent on, let's go soak the rich.
Senator, let me ask you with all respect, have you had this discussion with your party? What are they saying? Those are rational and effective ideas.
There are some in our party who will accept those. There are some in our party who get caught up too much in that we've got to make a deal now with the president. But see, I think this can be consistent with something the president and the Democrats want. They think the rich people need to pay more of their fair share. What I would say is let's let them receive less benefits because we don't have enough benefits to go around anyway, and let's come to a compromise there. Or let's look at military spending and come to a compromise there. But the media has so dictated that the only compromise is whether to raise taxes a lot, a little, or right in the middle somewhere. But it has to be raising taxes is the only compromise. I don't accept that. I think if we raise taxes, we could send the economy into a tailspin.
Well, you know, the choices, as I said, in terms of consequences, whether political or economic, are going to be severe. I want to credit Mike Flynn of Breitbart.com today. I don't know if you read his piece entitled, "The GOP, the Party of Slightly Fewer Tax Hikes." This has to be a carefully managed, if you will, piece of political choreography, because the Republican Party right now, the party of free enterprise, individual freedom, self-reliance, and lower taxes and smaller government, is on the verge of giving up its claims on lower taxes, smaller government, and perhaps with greater dependency, less individual freedom and self-reliance. It gives not much for the party to cling to politically.
Well, here's the thing, Lou. The facts are actually on our side. When Bush cut the tax rates in 2003, do you know what happened? We got more revenue, and the rich paid a higher percentage of that revenue.
You don't want me to give the full answer to this, do you? We saw the slowest job creation. It was only matched by the recession of 2008 and 9. This is such a complicated economy, as you know, I think, as well, or if not better than most of the folks who are responsible for managing the regulation of this economy in Washington. But the fact of the matter is, these are not such simple and obvious choices that have to be made. And Senator, you have been talking, and I think honestly and forthrightly, about some of these decisions. But we know that simply cutting taxes doesn't work. We know that simply in spending more federal money doesn't work. And these are the two primary principal tenets of the left and the right, the Republicans and the Democrats. They both have demonstrated that it's just not that simple, in my opinion. You get the last word here.
Well, I would just say, though, that we have to be competitive worldwide. You know, we're losing jobs, and one of the reasons we lose jobs is we have an income tax of 35% on our corporations. Canada's 15%, Europe's in the low 20s. So money goes where it's welcome, and money and jobs are flowing to other countries. We will have to change our tax code and make it more hospitable to business.
Senator Rand Paul, it's always good to talk with you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Lou.
Much more on the fiscal cliff, the negotiations, they want to call it. We'll take that up with the A-team and throughout the broadcast tonight. Stay with us.